After a while, it was like, yo, come with me, let's get some money. And he was like, yo, what you doing? I told him, yo, I hustle, I deal with my little 1-2 thing, come here, blah, blah. He was like, all right, I hang out with you. Got to stand in there with he pulls out the gun. Shoogs, the person you shoot first. The name of my clothing line is actually my name. It's my government name, Wallow Come. So my mom's always told me that I was a warrior in my life. So when you take that literally, that's why I just got to fight. On February 25th, 2001, a man emptied a fully automatic machine gun outside Hot 97 studio in Greenwich Village. 30 rounds from 6 different guns tore through the block in broad daylight. One man took a bullet in the back. The boys are already outside when Kim comes out the building. Capone walks up to Gutter talking about some gutter ass said to him in the club or something. Gutter is also like, yo, what up? You got problems with Kim? Start busting their guns. The shooter was Suge Knight, C. Gutter Jackson, the same man who 5 years earlier had pulled a gun on Suge Knight and Tupac Shakur at the Soul Train Music Awards. He was raised inside the Wallace household by Biggie's own mother. So, how did a kid from Mississippi end up at the center of every major flashpoint in bad boy history? Let's get into it. Suge Jackson was born in Mississippi. His mother died when he was young. At 15, he moved to Brooklyn. Not to family, not to a group home, but to the Clinton Hill apartment of a Jamaican-born school teacher named Voletta Wallace. She lived with her only son, Christopher, at 226 St. James Place between Gates Avenue and Fulton Street. I grew up on Washington between Gates and Fulton. He grew up on St. James between Gates and Fulton. So that's like right around the corner. Ms. Wallace had bought Christopher 2 rap albums in 1984, Run DMC and the Fat Boys' debut, the first records he ever owned. She took Suge in the same way she did everything else, without hesitation. Suge met Christopher at an arcade inside a laundromat near the apartment. Biggie was 14. Suge thought he was older because of his size. The two became inseparable. Along with their friend Roland Oli Young, they spent their days on Fulton Street doing what C. Gutter later called being fake hip-hop analysts, debating who was the best rapper alive. According to C. Gutter, Biggie's answer never changed: Big Daddy Kane. Biggie performed under the name MC Cedar West. He and his friend Hubert Sam recorded their first demo at Funky Slice Studios in downtown Brooklyn, rhyming over a Toto instrumental. That was the version of Christopher Wallace that Suge Jackson knew first, a rapper, a debater, a kid who memorized Big Daddy Kane verses and replayed them. On the block, the streets came next. Junior MAFIA member Chico Delvec introduced Biggie to crack cocaine dealing in the late 1980s. Suge was beside him from the start. After a while, it was like, yo, come with me, let's get some money. And he was like, yo, what you doing? I told him, yo, I hustle, I deal with my little 1-2 thing, come here, blah, blah. He was like, all right, I hang out with you. According to C. Gutter in his Vlad TV interview, other dealers tried to run them off the block and police were a constant problem. The difference between then and now, C. Gutter said, was that in the 1980s, there were no cameras on every corner. Biggie split his time between Brooklyn and Raleigh, North Carolina, where he set up a trap house with a few other dealers. According to Biggie himself, Puffy had been calling about contracts and he planned to leave North Carolina on a Tuesday. Something told him to leave Monday instead. Monday night, police raided the house and locked up everyone inside. Biggie missed the arrest by hours. C. Gutter wasn't as lucky. He caught a case and went to prison. While he was inside, Biggie recorded DMAS with DJ 50 Grand that caught the attention of the Source magazine. He completed a photo shoot for the unsigned hype column and connected with Sean Puffy Combs at Uptown Records. By the time C. Gutter got out, the kid from at the laundromat arcade had a record deal. Their friend Oli never saw any of it. Roland Oli Young was killed in 1992. According to Biggie's estranged wife Faith Evans, Oli and Tupac were the only two subjects that made Biggie visibly emotional. He dedicated the life after death track Miss You to Oli. C. Gutter, who had known Oli since they were teenagers on Fulton Street, found out about the murder while sitting in a cell. Junior MAFIA, Masters at Finding Intelligent Attitudes, was assembled from 3 separate crews out of Bedford-Stuyvesant. The Sixes, Lil, Cease, Bugsy, Capone, Chico, and Nino Brown. The Snakes, cousins Larceny and Trife. And individual members Kleptomaniac, Mr. Bristol, Chico Del Vec, and Lil Kim. Biggie built the group and served as its mentor, producer, and ghostwriter. Their debut album, Conspiracy, dropped in 1995 on Big Beat Records. The lead single, Player's Anthem, peaked at number 13 on the Billboard Hot 100 and was certified gold on September 7, 1995. C. Gutter's role was never behind the mic. He and Damian D-Rock Butler operated as Biggie's enforcers. D-Rock had already taken a gun charge for Biggie in the early 1990s and served time, a fact that cemented his position as one of the few people Biggie trusted completely. D-Rock also carried a camcorder everywhere, filming Biggie on tour buses, in hotels, backstage at concerts. That footage sat in storage for over 2 decades before becoming the backbone of the 2021 Netflix documentary. Sometimes, the crew would watch D-Rock's tapes together and study crowd reactions to figure out which songs to perform next. On the track What's Beef from Life After Death, Biggie name-dropped C. Gutter directly, a bar warning his enemies about what his man Gutter would do to their families. The line was extreme. C. Gutter heard it in the studio when Biggie recorded it. According to C. Gutter, he didn't speak to Biggie for 2 weeks over that bar, and they were living in the same apartment at the time. He never asked Biggie to take it off the record. By 1996, the East Coast-West Coast narrative had turned every public appearance into a potential crime scene. At the Soul Train Music Awards in Los Angeles, C. Gutter found himself at the center of one. After Biggie won his award, his crew waited outside the venue for their car. According to Lil, Cease, Tupac, and Suge Knight pulled up in a Hummer yelling. Security and onlookers separated the 2 camps. C. Gutter was armed. According to Lance Rivera, Biggie's business partner and co-founder of Undies Entertainment, he told C. Gutter to shoot Suge first if anything jumped off. Rivera later told Vlad TV he observed Suge was not being as street as he claimed. Got to stand in there with he pulls out the gun. Shugs, the person you shoot first. You telling that? Yes. Death Row's head of security, Reggie Wright Jr., told a completely different version. According to Wright, Tupac turned to him and told him to shoot C. Gutter because C. Gutter was visibly armed and ready to use it. Wright said he talked Tupac down and de-escalated the situation without firing. 2 armed camps, 2 separate orders to shoot. Neither side pulled the trigger. According to C. Gutter, the entire East Coast-West Coast beef was never real at the street level. He told Vlad TV that even after Tupac released Hit 'Em Up, the most personal diss track in hip-hop history, aimed directly at Biggie and Junior MAFIA, Biggie still played Tupac's music. Don't get it, up like Big still listen to Pac music. Still listen to Pac music. This is a Pac Big is Pac fan, so C. Gutter said Biggie was hanging out with Snoop Dogg and Daz Dillinger in the studio during the period when the media said they were at war. The beef was on records and on magazine covers. In private, Biggie still respected Tupac's work. 9 months after the Soul Train confrontation, Tupac was shot in Las Vegas. 6 months after that, Biggie flew to Los Angeles to promote Life After Death. On the night of March 9, 1997, Biggie attended the Soul Train Music Awards afterparty at the Peterson Automotive Museum on Wilshire Boulevard. "What's up, Carly? You're making me hot," Tony Braxton. By 12:45 a.m., the streets outside were packed with people leaving the event. Biggie sat in the front passenger seat of a green Chevrolet Suburban. D-Rock and Lil Cease were in the backseat. Gregory G-Money Young was driving. The SUV stopped at a red light on the corner of Wilshire Boulevard and South Fairfax Avenue, about 50 yards from the museum. A dark-colored Chevrolet Impala SS pulled alongside. The driver, described as a black male in a blue suit and bow tie, lowered the window and fired 6 shots from a 9 pistol into the Suburban. 4 rounds hit Biggie. One entered his hip and traveled upward through his chest, piercing vital organs. Christopher Wallace was pronounced dead at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center at 1:15 a.m. He was 24. Los Angeles police are investigating the shooting death of rapper Notorious B.I.G., also known as Biggie Smalls. He was gunned down early today. The rap star, whose real name is Christopher Wallace, had just left the Soul Train Awards party. D-Rock was sitting directly behind him. Lil Cease was beside D-Rock. Neither was hit. The murder has never been solved. C. Gutter wasn't in Los Angeles that night. He was locked up. He found out that the person he'd grown up with, hustled with, debated rap with, and shared a household with since he was 15 had been shot dead in a car in California. And there was nothing he could do about it from inside a cell. Without Biggie, Jr. MAFIA fractured. Lil Kim launched a solo career. Lil Cease put out solo records. D-Rock moved into management and became Kim's manager. C. Gutter stayed in Kim's orbit, too, working as her bodyguard. By 2001, the beef between Lil, Kim, and Foxy Brown had been building for years. Capone and Noreaga's 2000 album, The Reunion, featured a track called Bang Bang with Foxy Brown taking direct shots at Kim. That record moved the rivalry off wax. On February 25, 2001, Lil, Kim's entourage, was leaving Hot 97 studio at WQHT-FM in Greenwich Village around 3:00 p.m. At the same time, Capone and his associates were arriving. The two groups crossed paths outside the building. What happened next lasted less than a minute. Approximately 30 rounds were fired from 6 different weapons in broad daylight on a Manhattan street. C. Gutter had brought a fully automatic machine gun across state lines from New Jersey. He fired it approximately 20 times. Efrain Arcasio, 31, affiliated with Capone's crew, took a bullet in the back. Well, according to the reports, they say that you fired at least 20 shots during that time. And this guy named Efrain Arcasio got shot. He admitted himself to St. Vincent's Hospital in Manhattan and was released the next day. At least one round penetrated a nearby apartment building. D-Rock, the same man who had been sitting behind Biggie the night he was killed, the same man who had taken a gun charge for Biggie in the early 90s, the same man who had filmed everything on his camcorder, also fired a handgun during the shootout. He later told the court he fired with the intent of hurting someone. Security camera footage captured Lil Kim present during the shooting before she entered a limousine. From that day forward, Hot 97 banned rappers from recording freestyles at the station. When a federal grand jury convened to investigate the shooting, Lil Kim was called to testify. Under oath, she denied that Damian Butler and Suge Knight Jackson were present at the scene. Prosecutors had the security camera footage showing all 3 of them exiting the building together. Both C. Gutter and D-Rock pleaded guilty to weapons charges. C. Gutter was granted immunity for his courtroom statements and testified at Kim's trial. He confirmed he had known Lil Kim for approximately 10 years and was present with her group during the B shooting, directly contradicting her grand jury testimony. On March 17, 2005, Lil Kim was convicted on 3 counts of perjury and 1 count of conspiracy. In the process of the investigation, Lil Kim, I guess, tried to say that she didn't know any of you guys, and in the process, she gets hit with a perjury charge. She was sentenced to 1 year and 1 day in federal prison and fined $50,000. Kim went to prison for lying about the whereabouts of 2 men she'd known since the junior MAFIA days. The same men who had stood beside Biggie, who had been in the car when he was shot, who had pulled guns at the Soul Train Awards. The loyalty ran in one direction. She protected them, and the tape proved her wrong. On September 23, 2004, U.S. District Judge Gerard Lynch sentenced Suge Jackson to 12 years in federal prison. Jackson was 34 years old. He declined to make any statement before sentencing. Judge Lynch cited Jackson's 5 prior criminal convictions, 3 of them for violent crimes, and the use of a fully automatic weapon on a Manhattan street. He ordered Jackson to complete an existing state sentence for an unrelated crime set to end on August 7, 2006, before the federal term began. C. Gutter ended up serving 16 years total. You know, a lot of everything, a lot of stuff that happened to me. I was in jail. During that time, rapper Kai Ali, who was serving 20 years for a 2000 murder in the Bronx, crossed paths with C. Gutter in federal prison. According to Kai Ali on Vlad TV, C. Gutter was claiming, inside a facility that was predominantly blood. Kai Ali got stabbed while hanging with him. Even behind bars, the violence followed C. Gutter. Suge C. Gutter Jackson was released from federal prison in February 2017. He had gone in during the era of Ja Rule and Nelly. He came out to Drake and Migos. In 2021, Netflix released Biggie, I Got a Story to Tell. The documentary was built from D-Rock's camcorder footage, the same tapes the crew used to watch together in the 1990s. C. Gutter appeared alongside Voletta Wallace, Lil, Cease, Faith Evans, and Sean Combs. On camera, he told stories about the Laundromat Arcade, about Fulton Street, about debating rap with Biggie, and Ali. He spoke about Ms. Wallace taking him in when his mother died. He confirmed Biggie's favorite rapper was Big Daddy Kane. After his release, C. Gutter launched a clothing line called Balagun, his given name, which means warhead in Yoruba. You know, the name of my clothing line is actually my name. It's my government name, Balagun. So, you know, my mom's always told me that I was a warrior in all aspects. So when you take that literally, it's like I just got to fight. He sat for interviews on Vlad TV, The Gangster Chronicles, and Doggy Diamonds TV. He watched Lil, Kim and Lil Cease reunite in person for the first time since the trial. When Vlad TV asked him about the machine gun outside Hot 97, C. Gutter said he was being fired on. When they asked about the What's Beef lyric, he said he hated it. When they asked about Biggie, he talked about a 14-year-old kid in a laundromat who thought he was the best rapper alive and turned out to be right.